everybody, my name is John and I'm so glad to be with you today to talk about some of my favorite chord progressions to end a song. Jazz musicians love this idea of the play between tension and release and how many options we have rather than just ending on the one chord. I mean, sure, the one chord sounds fine to end on the song, right? It's very nice, but there are so many other beautiful ways that we can end the song that delay one. Things like that, and we're going to dive into that today. So here we go. So most of the time when you get to the end of a jazz ballad, it ends on the one chord, right? Which sounds fine. I mean, we can play that. Beautiful, right? But I believe that there are some other options that you can use that even make it more beautiful, and I'm going to show you those right now. The first example I'm going to show you is we're going to do the 1-6-2-5 chord progression, but rather than ending on the 1, we're going to end on the flat 2 before we get to the 1. So what is the flat 2? Well, in the key of E flat, the flat 2 would be E major 7. So we're going to end on the E major 7 and then resolve to the E flat major 7. So it's so beautiful. You know, you hear that tension and then you feel the release of the one chord. So let's go through this right now and play it, and I'll kind of talk you through it. First of all, we have this E flat major 9 chord. Left hand's playing the root, the 5, the 3, the major 7, and the 9th. Beautiful voicing, and this is what's called the spread voicing because we have it spread between the two hands. And then we get to the 6th chord and we're doing a C7 flat 9. So my left hand's playing the root, the 3, and the 7. My right hand's playing the flat 9, the flat 13, and then there's the melody. And then we get to the 2 chord and we have the F9 chord, so my left hand is playing the root, the 3, and the 7, and my right hand's playing the 9th and the 5. Then we have the 5 chord in the key of E flat, which is B flat 13, and so we have root, 7, and then I have the 3rd doubled on the outside octaves, and in between I have the 13th, the flat 9, which is a beautiful color, and the major 3rd on top. And if you're looking at your hands and you say, wow, that looks like a G major triad, because it is. And it's one way to think about chord extensions is what's called an upper structure. So you have this G major triad over a B flat, really beautiful sound. And then we finally get to the end chord here, and rather than going to E flat major, we go to E major 7. And if you look at your left hand, you have root, 3, 6, right hand's playing 9, 5, major 7. And if you take out your root with your left hand and you just do the inner voices here, we have what's called a chordal voicing because we have all fourths. 4th, 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 4th. And if we put this major 3rd on top, this particular voicing is what's called the So What voicing. You probably heard that tune So What by Miles Davis. So what? But anyway, if we add the root, we have this beautiful chordal voicing of a major 7 chord, and then we resolve to the 1 chord, going down by a half step. So let's put that all together and see what it sounds like. Here we go. So this is the 1 chord, 6 chord, 2 dominant, 5, 13, and then a half step above the root, and resolve. Gorgeous sound. And you can also add a little arpeggiation if you'd like to give it a little bit more at the end. So we can go. You can arpeggiate the right hand, and then resolve and arpeggiate the right hand doing the same notes that you just played. Really beautiful sound, isn't it? So in all these examples, what makes these chords work is that the melody ends on the root of whatever key you're in. So in this case, we're in the key of E flat major. And so the melody is ending on the root. And so we voice these chords based on that root. So for the first example, normally we just end here, right? That's the root and we'd end on the 1 chord. But because it's the root, we can then voice, what other chords could we use with this as one of the note parts of the chord? So in the key of E flat, that is the root. But if I put E major, now that changes the color, doesn't it? It becomes the major 7 of E major. And so for all of these examples that I'm going to show you today, they work because we're ending on the root of the key. All right, so the second chord progression I'm going to show you, this beautiful ending that we did in the first example, we're going to expand it a little bit to include one more chord. So in the previous example, we did flat 2 to 1 major 7. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sharp 5, which in this case of E flat, the fifth would be B flat. So we're going up a half step. You can either think of it as a sharp 5 or a flat 6, whichever is easier. It's the same thing. So we have a B major 7. So my left hand's playing B, which is the root, the 6th, the 9th, the right hand is playing the 5th, the major 7, and the 3rd. So we have this sound. Now, the left hand may have to stretch a little bit. You may have to do what's called rolling a chord. So you're going to roll it because that is a big stretch there. And go ahead and use the sustain pedal to help with that as well. So we have, and then we go to our E major 7 that we did in the previous example, and then finally resolve to the E flat major. So again, we're adding to this beautiful tension of not resolving to the one chord just yet. We're adding one more chord. So we have the flat 6, which is the B major 7, the flat 2, and then the 1. And because we already played the 1, 6, 2, 5 in the previous example, this is the same exact voicings that we did there. So we have the 1, 6, 2, 5, and now we have the flat 6, flat 2, and 1. Just a beautiful sound, and let's play that one more time all together. So here we go, together. 1, 6, 2, 5, here's the flat 6, flat 2, and 1, and you can arpeggiate that last chord. All right, great. So the third example we're going to talk about today is we're still using this flat 2 to the 1. That seems to be the common theme going on here. But rather than doing the flat 6 like we did in the previous example, the B major, E major, E flat, now we're going to approach the 1 chord by a whole step up. Actually, a whole step up from the E major. So that would be a G flat, either F sharp major or G flat major, whichever you prefer. And so we're starting on this minor third, so G flat major 7. So my left hand's playing the root, the 5th, my right hand's playing the major 7, the 3rd, and the 6th. And then we go down to the flat 2, voicing, which you already know, and then resolving it to the 1 chord. So again, this beautiful progression of going flat 3, flat 2, and 1. So it's approaching it from above, which I think is a really interesting approach. So again, you know these chords because we just practiced these, right? 1, 6, 2, 5, same exact voicing. The 5, but now we're going to go to the flat 3 major 7, flat 2 major 7, and 1. And you can again do that arpeggio at the end. So let's try it all together. Here we go. 1, 6, dominant 2, 5, here's our flat 3 major 7, here's our flat 2 major 7, and 1. Notice also at the very end of the song, even though the song ends on the root, which is E flat, the very last chord that we're doing, we're going down to the major 7, which I think is a really nice note to end on, the major 7. I would say either the major 7 or the 9th are really nice choices to use at the end rather than just the root. All right, so the fourth chord progression I'm going to show you is another one of my favorites, and this is one that ends, rather than ending on the root, it's ending on the flat 7 before it goes to the root. And it's just a lovely sound. I really like the way this sounds. In fact, there are some artists that use this a lot, like Elton John, for example, will use this kind of chord progression, which is kind of a pop chord progression. In this case, we're just going from the flat 7 to the 1. Really beautiful sound. And again, it has a different quality than this, doesn't it? That's what we started with, half step up. But this is a whole step down and then resolves. Again, just a different color, but I think it's really beautiful. And it's just nice to have this, a lot of things that you can choose from when you're ending a song. So Again, the beginning is just the same as we did in the very beginning. We have the 1 chord, the 6 chord, the 2 chord, the 5 chord, but now here's our D flat 9, which is the flat 7. So left hand's playing root and 7, and the right hand's playing the major 3rd, the 6th or the 13th, and the 9th. And again, if you look at the right hand, you're playing that chordal voicing again, which is the 4ths in the right hand. So the 4ths in the left hand, or in the right hand rather, and the left hand's playing the root and the 7th. So we have this, and then we resolve to the 1 chord. Beautiful sound. So let's try that together. Here we go. So here's the 1 chord. 6, 2, 5, flat 7 dominant, and resolve, and arpeggiate. So that's a favorite one that I like to use, and I use that one quite often. All right, so for our 5th example, I'm going to talk about another ending that's similar to the one that we just covered, the flat 7. Beautiful, huh? So what we've done in this example is take the idea of the flat 7 to 1 that we did in the previous example, flat 7, 1, but we've taken it a step further and we've added this A flat minor chord before the D flat 9. And we say, well, where does that A flat minor 9 come from? And I'm going to talk about it right now. So the D flat 7, normally D flat is 5 in the key of G flat, right? And so what jazz musicians often do is they say, okay, well, if D flat is 5 in the key of G flat, then what's 2 in the key of G flat? And they'd say A flat minor. So we have an A flat minor to D flat 7, but then rather than going to G flat major, we're going to E flat major. You can also think of the A flat minor 9 as being the minor 4 in the key of E flat, and the D flat as the flat 7. So minor 4, flat 7, 1 is probably an easier way to think about it. So there's also a song that is a Charlie Parker tune that's called Yardbird Suite that you may have heard that uses that chord progression. Or the song Misty also. Minor 4, flat 7. So it's a very typical chord progression, but it's also a great progression to end the song with. Again, when the root is the last note that you're ending on. So let's play this together now, starting with the voicing that you know from the very beginning, the 1 chord, the 6 chord, dominant 2, 5. Now here's our minor 4, and then flat 7 and 1. Let's talk about the voicings of this A flat minor 9 to D flat 9. So for the left hand, for the A flat minor 9, you have the root, the minor 3rd, in the right hand you have the 7th, and you have the 9th, and the 5, and the 5th. So we have this voicing, really haunting kind of voicing, beautiful. And then we go to the D flat 9, the left hand is playing the root and the 7th, and the right hand is playing the 3rd, the 13th, and the 9th, which again, if you look at your right hand, those are all 4ths in terms of the intervals. They also call that a chordal voicing. So your right hand's playing 4ths, and your left hand's playing the root and 7, and then finally we resolve to the voicing that you've already played, which is the root, 3, 6, 9, 5, major 7. All right, we're at number 6, and number 6 is probably one of my favorite chord progressions because there's a lot of tension. Right when you think it's about to end, there's one more chord that's thrown in there. And so the chords that we're using here, we're starting with that flat 7 we just did in the previous example where we have D flat 9. But then we're going up a half step to D 13 flat 9, a very crunchy kind of chord, isn't it? You have the root 7, 3, do you hear that natural 13th and the flat 9? And then we resolve to the 1 chord. So let me play the full example so you can hear how it sounds in context. Okay, here's the flat 7 coming up. Now here's the 7 dominant and to the 1. So that's a a very, I call it crunchy chord when you have these, it's a 13th with the flat 9. So again, the left hand's playing the root and 7, right hand's playing the 3rd, the 13th, and the flat 9. And if you look at the right hand, again, you go, wow, that looks like a B major triad, because it is. So again, this gets into the upper structures idea of a B major triad over a D7 in the left hand. Very beautiful, haunting chord. One of my favorite chord progressions. Flat 7, 7 dominant, 1. Hope you enjoy it too. All right, now we're at number 7, and probably one of my all-time favorite chord progressions to end on, because there are a lot of chords, and you know, jazz musicians, if they love anything, they love a lot of changes. So this is one of the most beautiful chord progressions because it starts on the tritone of the key. So if we're in the key of E flat, a tritone is also an augmented fourth. So if we're in the key of E flat, that's a fourth, A flat. An augmented fourth would be A. So they call it, there's a term for this chord progression, they call it tritone down, because you're starting on the tritone and you're going down by half steps until you get to the root. And I'll play it for you first, and then I'll walk you through the chords. Here's the tritone coming up, which is A. We're going down half steps. Finally resolving on the 1 chord. So let's break these chords down. The first chord we have, again, the melody is the root, so that's the E flat. That's important to note, that this chord progression works the best when the root is in the melody. So we start with an A minor 7 flat 5. So we have the root, the 3rd, the 7th, and the flat 5. Then we go down a half step, and this is A flat minor 7. So left hand's playing the root and the minor 3rd, right hand plays the 7th and the 5th. Then we go down to this beautiful chord, which is called E flat add 2. Now they call it E flat add 2 and not E flat 9 because E flat 9 would imply that there was a dominant 7th. E flat add 2 indicates that it's just a major chord, like an E flat major chord, but you're adding the 2nd or the 2. So this is voiced with the 3rd in the bass. So we have 3, 5, add 2, and root. Isn't that pretty? And this is something that maybe is seen more as a pop kind of voicing, but it's also used in jazz. Then we go to this diminished chord, which is G flat diminished. And again, diminished chords are all built in minor thirds. That's how you can tell it's a diminished chord, all minor thirds. So we've broken up this diminished chord by having the root, the 5th, the 3rd, and the 7th. Again, it's called a spread voicing because it's all spread out there between the hands. Then we have F minor 7, root 5, 3, and 7. And then our chord that you're familiar with here, the E major 7, root 3, 13, 9, 5, major 7, and it goes down a half step to E flat major 7. So let's put that all together. Here we go. Isn't that gorgeous? One of my favorite chord progressions and really a lot of fun to play.
Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the lesson, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.